Welcome to Silent Crime Case, the channel where the darkest secrets are brought to light. Today we unravel a chilling tale from a quiet town where a seemingly innocent love triangle spirals into a deadly obsession and an unexpected murder that shocks everyone. What starts as a tale of passion quickly turns into a chilling story of rivalry, betrayal, and a crime that stuns an entire community. Stay with us until the end. What seems like a straightforward story is anything but. Meet the key figures in our story. Amelia Dawson, a 25-year-old with a calm, thoughtful demeanor masking deep-seated insecurities. Evelyn Dawson, her spirited 23-year-old sister known for her adventurous spirit and impulsive nature. And Daniel Harper, the enigmatic new neighbor whose allure ignites a dangerous rivalry between the once inseparable sisters. Our story begins with Amelia and Evelyn Dawson, sisters living in the tranquil suburban enclave of Silver Creek. Their bond had always been strong, a friendship rooted in childhood, shared dreams, and an unspoken understanding that they would always stand by each other. But everything changed when Daniel Harper moved in next door. Daniel Harper was a man who could turn heads without uttering a word. Handsome, with a mysterious allure, he quickly became the subject of every conversation in the neighborhood. At first, Amelia and Evelyn regarded Daniel as a curiosity, a new face in their quiet community. But as days turned into weeks, both sisters found themselves drawn to him in ways they had never anticipated. Evelyn, with her outgoing personality, was the first to make a move. She would linger by Daniel's fence, initiating light-hearted conversations filled with flirtatious undertones. Meanwhile, Amelia, more reserved by nature, was captivated by Daniel's quiet, introspective side. They shared long conversations about literature and music, bonding over their mutual love for the arts. To Amelia, Daniel wasn't just a handsome neighbor. He was a kindred spirit who understood her in a way few others did. As their feelings for Daniel grew, tension between the sisters began to build. Initially, this brought about a sense of excitement, a shared experience they could laugh about. But as time went on, the excitement turned into something darker. Evelyn noticed how Daniel's gaze lingered longer on Amelia, how his eyes softened when she spoke. Amelia, in turn, saw the playful glint in Daniel's eyes when he interacted with Evelyn. The way his laughter came a bit too easily at her jokes. The tension between the sisters escalated. It started subtly an offhand remark, a cold glance, but soon turned into something more palpable. Their once unbreakable bond began to fray under the weight of their unspoken rivalry. Each sister, driven by her burgeoning feelings for Daniel, began spending more time with him, often without the other's knowledge. Foreshadowing the fatal night, Amelia, growing increasingly paranoid, started spying on Evelyn's interactions with Daniel, watching from her bedroom window, her heart sinking every time she saw them together. Evelyn, feeling the pressure of competition, became more aggressive in her attempts to win Daniel's affection. She began showing up at his house unannounced, her presence becoming more assertive and her demeanor more desperate, clarifying Daniel's role and intentions. Meanwhile, Daniel, aware of the growing tension between the sisters, found himself enjoying the attention. He wasn't blind to the rivalry his presence had sparked. In fact, he seemed to revel in it. In a private moment, he reflected on the dangerous game he was playing. Two beautiful women vying for my affection, he mused with a smirk. How far will they go to win? His amusement was clear, but he underestimated the depth of their emotions and the darkness brewing beneath the surface. A heated confrontation. One evening, after a late-night walk with Daniel, Evelyn returned home to find Amelia waiting for her, her face a mask of barely contained anger. You lied to me. You were with him, weren't you? Amelia's voice shook with suppressed rage. It's not your business who I see, Evelyn snapped back, her eyes flashing with defiance. What are you trying to prove, Evelyn? That you can win him over with your charms? Amelia retorted, her voice cutting like a knife. The argument escalated quickly, and words that had never been spoken between them, accusations of jealousy, betrayal, and resentment, were hurled with venomous intensity. They were no longer just sisters. They were rivals, each vying for Daniel's affection, each convinced the other was out to steal the man she believed was meant for her. Escalating tensions. In the following weeks, their relationship deteriorated further. The sisters became secretive, each going to great lengths to win Daniel's affection without the other knowing. Amelia began writing Daniel long, heartfelt letters, pouring out her feelings and leaving them in his mailbox late at night. Evelyn, meanwhile, took a more direct approach. showing up at Daniel's house unannounced, bringing him homemade meals, and using every bit of charm she had. Daniel seemed to enjoy the attention, perhaps unaware of the growing rift between the sisters, or perhaps reveling in it. His behavior became increasingly erratic, inviting one sister over for dinner one night, only to spend the next evening with the other. It was a dangerous game, one that would soon have deadly consequences. The fatal night. It was a stormy evening in late November when the fragile balance finally shattered. Evelyn, unable to sleep, decided to confront Daniel once and for all. She had to know where she stood. Wearing a raincoat, she made her way to his house, the wind whipping around her as she walked. When she arrived, she found the front door slightly ajar. Her heart racing, she pushed it open and stepped inside. The house was dark, save for a single light coming from the living room. As she approached, she heard voices, Daniel's and Amelia's. Peering through the doorway, Evelyn saw them sitting close together on the couch, their heads bowed in deep conversation. The way Daniel looked at Amelia, the way he held her hand, it was more than she could bear. Blinded by jealousy and rage, Evelyn burst into the room. Her sudden appearance startled them both. An argument erupted, filled with venom and accusations. Daniel tried to calm them down, but his words were drowned out by the storm of emotions. In a moment of madness, Evelyn grabbed a heavy candlestick from the mantel and swung it at Amelia. Amelia dodged, and the candlestick crashed into a glass cabinet, shattering it into pieces. The sisters wrestled on the floor, their screams piercing through the night. In the chaos, Daniel tried to intervene, but Evelyn, still holding tea. Detective Harris, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for solving the toughest cases, was called to the scene. He quickly separated the sisters and began questioning them. Their stories were conflicting and filled with gaps, each sister blaming the other for what had happened. Evelyn just snapped, Amelia claimed through tears. She couldn't handle the thought of Daniel choosing me. That's not true, Evelyn sobbed. Amelia was the one who went crazy. She attacked me and Daniel tried to stop her. It was an accident. Detective Harris knew this case would be anything but straightforward. Over the next few days, the investigation intensified. Forensic teams combed through Daniel's house looking for clues. They found blood-stained clothing hidden in Evelyn's closet, and Amelia's fingerprints on the murder weapon, the candlestick. But the evidence was circumstantial, and the lack of a clear motive muddied the waters further. Streamlined aftermath. The trial drew national attention, with media outlets from across the country covering the sensational case of the two sisters turned adversaries. The courtroom was packed with journalists, onlookers, and the sisters' devastated parents, who sat in the front row, their faces etched with pain and disbelief. The prosecution painted a damning picture, portraying the sisters as jealous rivals whose obsession with Daniel led them down a path of violence. The defense attorneys, one for each sister, argued passionately for their client's innocence, each blaming the other for the tragic events. As the trial progressed, the sisters' relationship continued to crumble. They no longer looked at each other, their faces turned away, their expressions cold and distant. The once inseparable bond was now shattered beyond repair. After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict. Evelyn was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter and sentenced to 10 years in prison. Amelia, though initially charged, was acquitted due to the lack of concrete evidence directly linking her to Daniel's death. The courtroom was filled with gasps and murmurs. Evelyn broke down in tears as she was led away in handcuffs, her once bright future now dimmed by a tragic mistake. Amelia stood frozen, her face a mix of shock and relief. She was free, but at what cost? Amelia was left alone, haunted by the events that tore her family apart. The love that once bound the Dawson sisters had turned into a deadly obsession, leaving behind a trail of broken hearts and shattered lives. The final scene. In the days following the trial, the once quiet town of Silver Creek grappled with the aftermath of the tragedy. The story of the Dawson sisters became a dark chapter in the town's history, a chilling reminder of how quickly love can turn into hate. Neighbors who had once admired the Dawson family now spoke in hushed tones, struggling to reconcile the image of two sisters who had been so close with the grim reality of what had transpired. Amelia tried to return to some semblance of normalcy, but her life would never be the same. She was constantly reminded of the love triangle that had turned deadly, and the sister she had lost to a dark path of jealousy and rage. Guilt and sorrow hung over her like a storm cloud. She began attending therapy, attempting to come to terms with her role in the tragic events. Despite her efforts to move on, the shadow of that fatal night continued to haunt her dreams and waking hours. Meanwhile, Evelyn adjusted to life behind bars. In prison, she had plenty of time to reflect on her actions and the choices that led her to this point. She often replayed the events of that night in her mind, wondering if things could have been different if she had only controlled her emotions. Letters from Amelia went unanswered. The bond that had once held them together was now a distant memory, overshadowed by betrayal and loss. Years passed, and the wound slowly began to heal, but the scars remained. Amelia found herself drawn back to the place where it all began, Daniel's grave. On the anniversary of his death, she visited his resting place, placing a single white rose on his headstone. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "I'm so sorry, Daniel, for everything." As she turned to leave, she caught a glimpse of Evelyn's parents, who were there to visit their daughter in prison. They exchanged a brief, knowing glance, a silent acknowledgement of a shared grief. Fade to black, the screen goes silent. But this story is far from over. The tragic end of Daniel Harper is just the beginning. The secrets that tore the Dawson sisters apart are deeper than anyone realized. Stay tuned as we uncover the hidden truths that still linger in Silver Creek. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Is this truly the end, or are there more secrets yet to be revealed? Stay curious, stay safe, and join us next time as we explore another chilling tale of love, obsession, and betrayal.